So the NFLPA dropped some report cards, and I think that these are interesting to look at for where the Browns are versus where the rest of the AFC North are. And what this report card looked at from the NFLPA was just a couple of things. Well, like not a couple of things, a bunch of things, right? They looked at treatment of facilities. They looked at food service and nutrition. They looked at weight room. They looked at strength coaches, training room, training staff, locker room, and team travel, right? Kind of a behind the scenes look at what do players feel like their teams' facilities do well and what did their teams' facilities do not do well. And it's interesting. Also, like there's they asked a question in here that was, how willing do you think your owner is to invest more money into, basically, how cheap do you think the dude who owns the team is? And I think that was also interesting. Some of the answers that were there. And this is important to take very seriously because these are people who are employees of this team who work there all the time, who would know and would have no reason to negatively grade something here. And one of the things I found interesting, and these are the Browns grades. The Browns ranked 21st out of 32 NFL teams. They say the Cleveland Browns were ranked 21st. The players and respondents expressed two major complaints. First of which is the weight room, which currently takes up about 20 yards in the indoor practice facility, which players stated was already small. The second issue pertains to the locker room, which players believe is the smallest in the league, resulting in players feeling like they do not have enough personal space. Now, if you've been to Berea, I would agree with most of what I heard here because Berea was built, the Browns facility was built a long time ago. And it's been renovated a lot and they do pretty well for it. But the big issue with it is it needs more space, but it's built in the middle of a neighborhood, so you can't just manifest more space, right? If you look at like the Bills practice facility, their facility is like in the middle of nowhere. So they don't have to worry about like, oh, if they need more space, it's hard to get more space because a lot of that space is very easy to accumulate. But if you look at the Browns practice facility, and I'm going to show it on Google Maps here. You look at the Browns practice facility, it's in the middle of the neighborhood, right? Like there are houses here. And these aren't just like small houses. These are very expensive looking houses here. And that takes up a lot of space. Now, what I've always thought the Browns should do is find a way to basically extend the building and get rid of one of these practice fields that aren't necessary. You see this area of grass down here? They use these two fields a lot, and they use this area a ton. And this is where they put the stands when people come in and watch during a training camp. And here's more area where they put the stands and everything. But this area hardly ever gets used. Like, I don't know what it gets used for anymore. It used to be an extra field. They're barely ever on that field. Like, it's usually this field or that field. Maybe they'll come to this field during training camp to give the fans who showed up and are there something to watch, but they don't really use that field. Even like for special teams where like you would have somebody kicking down there, it just doesn't get used. So I think the Browns should just probably build like this strength and conditioning facility here. It's not ideal because it's not connected to the main building. And you can see how small that main building is. But you know, you could build, I think you could put the strength and conditioning stuff here, take back the space that's in the indoor facility back, And the indoor facility is not exactly like 100 yards. It's like 80 yards. So like that kind of sucks. But that is what it is. Most indoor facilities aren't really 100 yards, even in the NFL. And then as far as the locker rooms go, yeah, I don't know the solution for that. Maybe you could put the locker rooms in the new facility down here, and rock that. Or maybe you can just, that would be so expensive though, if you just got rid of this whole indoor facility here, put the indoor facility on this field, and then made the rest of this locker room and strength and conditioning space. But the thing is that there are solutions available to them that they probably should take, and they're probably going to take, right? I think they're making a swing, the Browns are, for a new stadium. Now let's hope it goes better than the last time an owner wanted a new stadium, where it literally led to the team being moved to Baltimore. But if they get a new stadium, I think that's going to come with like facility upgrades and such, and then that'll get fixed. So I think that's going to get fixed within the next 5 years. But those are the complaints about the Browns. Let's talk about the Baltimore Ravens, who are interesting, right? Because their facilities are very nice. I don't know if you guys have ever been to Baltimore's facilities, but they're very nice. I've been. Very nice facility. It's a beautiful facility. 17th out of 32 teams, which is pretty good. And again, their facilities, great rankings here, right? Locker room, A+, training room, C, weight room, C+, treatment of facility, C+, food and nutrition, B-. But then you look at this strength coach thing, and what's odd about this strength coach thing is that it's not just an F, it's an F-. And if we look here, don't nobody give their, like, these are the strength coaches' grades. I'm going to read them all out. A+, 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 A, 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 A minus, 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 B plus, B plus, B, D minus, F minus. Something's going on here with these two teams in their strength coaches, because people don't be trying to get the strength coach a bad grade on stuff like this unless the strength coach is actually bad. And the Falcons and the Ravens must have terrible strength staffs. And it makes sense when you think of the Ravens because, man, through covering the AFC North throughout all this time, I've noticed that the Ravens have a lot of injuries compared to other franchises. And it doesn't make any sense. Like, every year they're unlucky with injuries. And then when these guys come back, there's always weird stuff going on with their injuries to where how they're going to return and all that, right? Like the Lamar Jackson thing. That thing, like, was he going to return? Was he not? Was he trying to play? Was he not? Nobody knew. And then there's the J.K. Dobbins thing where J.K. Dobbins came back, didn't feel great about his rehab, and then got surgery, came back, felt better. That tells me, all this right here tells me when the fifth to the bottom is an A-, and then you are an F- at the bottom, that tells me that the staff is the problem in Baltimore for injuries. That's why they have had a disproportionate amount of injuries. And if you look here on thing, they also don't think Steve Bisciotti is cheap. They think he is committed. He's going to give 100%. Well, as 100% of them believe that he's willing to invest in more upgrades. Same thing with Jimmy Haslam. So we know Steve Bisciotti and Jimmy Haslam are not perceived as cheap. Let's go to number 22, ranked lower than the Cleveland Browns. Pittsburgh Steelers, who are ranked lower than the Browns, ranked lower than the Ravens. The Ravens are 22nd, the common theme for players and respondents feeling like there's a lack of resources to invest into the facility. Players respondents believe that the team is understaffed in both the weight and training room, and unlike the majority of the league, they do not offer a family room or daycare for their players on game day. This is a very important sticking point for a lot of players in the NFL. Only 44% felt like who responded feel like the Steelers owner Art Rooney is willing to invest more in upgrading their facility. They think he's cheap, y'all. They think he's cheap. All this flack we've been giving to the Cincinnati Bengals, and while we've been right here, the Rooney's been cheap all along, man. Treatment of facilities, D-. That tells me they think they cheap, right? Like all of these trading room, D-. Locker room, D+. And like the Browns got a bad locker room rating because they didn't feel like there was enough physical space. Dave gave them a bad locker room rating because they feel like it stinks. It's not well kept. That's different. That's kind of sketchy. Team travel, they do well on team travel. Training staff, the people that hire feel like they're good. You know, the strength coaches, they don't feel like this causes a problem, and they do feel like they get fed well. But again, interesting stuff here. And then let's go to the Cincinnati Bengals, who ranked 27th. This is no surprise to anybody who has paid attention to the behind-the-scenes scene of football. We know the Bengals are cheap. The Bengals have probably the least money out of any franchise. They're trying to draw money from the smallest pool of fans that any franchise has. Like it's as close to a niche market that you can get. Not saying like there aren't Bengal fans, but there just aren't a lot of Bengal fans. Like even now with Joe Burrow and being popular and all that, there's just the Bengals fan base is just not that big. It just is what it is. Like, I know Bengal fans get mad as hell when I say that, but like it's the truth. Ain't that many of y'all. You know what I mean? Like Cincinnati just is not as big as the Cleveland metro area. It's not as big of a historic as a franchise as the Cleveland Browns, so you don't have a lot of fans from out of town. And you're pulling from a small area. Like it just is what it is. And in this column, they say the Bengals are ranked 27th in our team guide. The staff is well liked. The players credit head coach Zach Taylor for recent improvements that have been made, which speaks to why he grades out well as one of the most liked coaches in the NFL by his player. However, the facility and resources are often ranked far below average. The Bengals are one of 3 teams that do not provide dinner for their players. That's crazy. They are also one of 2 teams that do not provide vitamins. They are the only team that does not provide supplements. Additionally, players feel like they have the smallest hot cold tubs in the league. They have issues with showers and toilets not consistently working. Dog, what? Wait, what? In the NFL? That's crazy. All right. The only team that does not have outlets in their lockers to charge they don't got plugs. That's got to be an intentional choice, dude. That's got to be. I got more plugs in my room in this studio than the Bengals have in their locker room. It's crazy. That's insane. The players who responded to the survey also complained that there is nowhere safe and warm for mothers and kids to go during the game because the Bengals do not provide a family room. Unlike the majority of teams, players report their wives have sat on the public restroom floor to nurse their babies. This is the NFL. This is stuff you don't even hear come out about the XFL or the CFL or the USFL. What are they doing? Like people want, again, Bengal fans get mad when I make these jokes about them being broke. But they do stuff like this. How am I supposed to look at the fact that you don't provide electricity? Working showers, food, supplements to a NFL football team and say anything other than make fun of how cheap y'all are? That is so cheap. These examples are consistent with players' opinion, with only 44% of them believing that Mike Brown is willing. So they think Mike Brown cheap. They think Mike Brown cheap. They think Mike Brown cheap, and they also think Art Rooney cheap. But at least Art Rooney got working showers. That's crazy. Let's read that again. Like that, I don't think that's insane. The Bengals are the team that doesn't provide dinners. They're one of 3 teams that do not provide dinners. And I think the notoriously cheap Cardinals are one of the other teams that don't just not provide dinner. They charge for dinner. So like they cook it. They're fully capable of doing it, but they don't do it. They charge you for it. That's ridiculous. I think the Cardinals also charge somebody for FedEx on a check that they were signing to stay with the team. Like it's just crazy. They don't provide supplements, vitamins. Additionally, players feel like they have the smallest hot cold tubs of the league. They do not have electricity outlets. They have no family room, and players have had to. That's okay. The Bengals are cheap, dog. Cheap. Okay, let's look at the actual grades here. Treatment of facilities F. Food and nutrition F minus. They be serving lunch line food in Cincinnati, apparently. Weight room B plus. Hey, they got a good weight room. It is nice because the way this Bengals facility, they don't have a facility. They don't have a dedicated facility like Cleveland, Baltimore, and Pittsburgh. The way their facility is set up is that it's in the stadium itself. They have like an underground area in the stadium that's their facility. And you know, it's not how most NFL teams do it, but that's how they do it. And it is a nice weight room. They have a little turf, 20-yard turf section in there, I guess. It's decent. But the weight room's good. That's good to hear. The strength coach is good. That's good to hear. Training room, they don't trust it. They don't like the room itself. They think the staff is fine, but the room stinks. Locker room, D. And then team travel, C+. So what did we learn about the AFC North? What did we learn is that Art Rooney and Mike Brown are cheap. And Mike Brown is just like getting away with being the most cheap owner. One of the most cheap owners in the NFL. Borderline not NFL quality. I know they don't want to, like, it's one of those things to where you don't want to sacrifice something in the CBA to make this a standard. But like, dog, what the Bengals are doing here, just that's not NFL quality. They should be embarrassed by this. But everything we know about the Bengals, or not the Bengals, Mike Brown, is that he is immune to being embarrassed about how cheap he is, because this man been this cheap forever. Art Rooney, on the other hand, dog, come on, man. You got a better reputation than what you be out here doing. Like, at least he has electricity in the locker room, though. And as far as the Browns and the Ravens go, those are the 2 franchises. And it makes sense if you've ever been around these franchises. Those are the 2 franchises that are willing to spend a lot of money on football. Ironically, not a lot of money on Lamar Jackson, but a lot of money on football. So I just wanted to talk about that. It's a little fun off-season thing. Who has the best facilities? Who does it according to the players? That's my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Y'all have a great day. Have a good night.